All right, everyone, we're back. And I don't know about you, but I'm starting to get kind of tired. It feels like every 3 hours something insane happens ever since the A&M game kicked off. Yeah, it's kind of insane where we're at in this coaching search. I remember like the BK one, felt like it took forever and it's just rumor after rumor after rumor. Lincoln Riley, insert whatever other name, and then boom, it was just BK. I was like, holy crap. So when we fired Brian Kelly, I was starting to get myself mentally prepared. Like, all right, it's going to be a long couple months. There's going to be all these Lane Kiffin rumors, other rumors here and there. What I didn't expect to happen is that the main thing everyone's going to be talking about is the governor. I mean, only at LSU, right? Only in Louisiana, something like this would happen. But you're probably like me. You're probably thinking, what's the deal with Governor Landry? Why is he seemingly like the czar of LSU football? Why does he have so much power maybe than former officials? So I dove into it, read a lot of old articles from the past year, read a lot of PDF documents about the Board of Supervisors, and today I'm going to walk you through how and I think why Governor Landry is acting the way he is. And essentially, if we move on to the next slide here, how he's meddling in LSU. And when I say LSU, I mean the school system and then also LSU football. So first, you've probably been hearing LSU Board of Supervisors a lot. I don't know. I went to LSU, been a fan for a while now. I don't ever remember hearing diddly squat about the Board of Supervisors, but in the last week, I don't know. It's like the only thing I'm seeing on social media. It first started with them raising ticket prices. I think that was last Friday, and then they had to do they walked out on the field on Saturday against A&M to get their little round of applause. But it seems like they're the ones, along with Landry, who are making a lot of these decisions. Seems like they all met at Governor Landry's, what the hell is it called? The governor's mansion in BR, and officially rallied the troops to get BK out. Heard a lot about them. Who are they? What do they do? Why does Governor Landry seem to hold all the cards? Simply put, they seem to run everything involved with LSU at the highest level. So all the definitions for them online are pretty vague, and I don't know. To me, it was non-satisfactory. But I went into the bylaws. You can find them online if you just looked up LSU Board of Supervisors, and you will find this in section 1, which it says LSU Board of Supervisors shall supervise and manage the institutions, statewide agricultural programs, and other programs administered, blah, 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 blah. But I think it's interesting and sums it up here at the very bottom. And it says every aspect of the LSU system, including the structure, organization, personnel, assets, and activities of the universities. Originally when I was digging into the Board of Supervisors, I was thinking it's just like LSU, like the main campus, Baton Rouge, right? It's everything. It's LSU S, it's LSU A, it's LSU Online, it's LSU E, it's the med school, the dental school, the vet school. Anything that has the 3 letters LSU attached to it, these are the people who have the power to hire and fire at the highest level. And nothing happens without their approval and their oversight. So, moving on. Why does it seem like Landry all of a sudden holds all the cards with them? Well, it's very interesting. There's 14 board members and 1 chairman on the LSU Board of Supervisors. Funny enough, why you might never have heard of a governor exerting so much power before, I went back. Turns out the middle of last year, Governor Landry got a new bill passed that essentially gives him way more power than any other governor had before to appoint officials into the group, to appoint the chair directly from the group, and also past the LSU Board of Supervisors, the lower level committees. He got access to handpick hundreds of them, which no governor has ever had the power to do before. So just a little quote from this article here. The Louisiana House of Representatives approved a bill Tuesday that would allow the governor to directly select the chair of hundreds of boards and commissions. And then, critics worry, blah, 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 blah. The critics are probably right in this sense. Moving on, this is from another article here, kind of like I said, prior to the law taking effect, governors could only appoint members to the board who would then select their own chairs. Now this is switched now, and I'm about to get into it in the next slide. Landry can appoint the chair himself. The board doesn't have to come to any of their own conclusions. So another quote from when it got passed last year. Until this year, LSU board members who have always been political appointees chose their own chair. But a state law approved earlier this year gave the governor power to directly appoint the chairman as well as the leader of other state boards and commissions in Louisiana. And it goes on to say, taken to its extreme, the new rule could allow the chair to stack any search committee and steer it to a preferred outcome. Interesting. So what did old Governor Landry do? He named Scott Ballard as the next chairman of the LSU Board of Supervisors. Ballard, a Covington businessman, was appointed by Landry last year. To no one's surprise, Ballard is also a massive political donor to Landry. Now, I don't want to paint it as some like nasty thing that he's appointed only people that have donated to his campaign in the past, because previously it seems like that's pretty much how it all works. I read something before with John Bell Edwards that all the people he appointed, in fact, donated to his campaign. I don't want to like harp on him too much, but I think it's important to note as we go through this presentation of sorts that Landry controls the board, either directly or indirectly. There's 14 of them. He has already switched out 6. And I read at the start of next year, he can do 4 more, and he intends to. So 10 of the 14 will 100% be, Landry disciples, so to say. And the other 4, they just have longer term limits. So he can't get them out, or else I'm sure he would. But that kind of sets the stage as we go into the rest of this year. Now I want to give an overview of everything from my perspective that Governor Landry has done involving LSU, and kind of how a lot of it is pretty embarrassing. Where else to start besides Omar the Tiger? It was this time last year, I think, that we got the news that randomly, but for the Alabama game, we're going to have a live tiger like they used to. And I think we all admit that was a cool tradition they used to do, but I think everyone was in agreement, like, yeah, it's probably for the best we don't do that anymore. It's lowering Mike's longevity. It's probably not the best thing to give this tiger a bunch of drugs and wheel it out there, give it a ton of anxiety. I never heard anyone in my time at LSU be like, it's BS that we don't do that anymore. Everyone's in agreement. It's common sense. We got the tiger, and we got Mike. He's got this great habitat, literally 20 feet from the student section entrance of the stadium. I think it's pretty cool that we have a tiger as is. We don't need to wheel him into the stadium drugged up. But, Landry couldn't help himself. And at the time, he said, this is about tradition. This is about from Mike 1 through whatever. We had a live mask on the field like many other colleges have before. And of course, we're honoring those mics. And, he goes on. Our hope is that maybe we can get this tiger to roar a couple of times, and that'll indicate how many touchdowns we'll have, and it'll be more than Alabama. Well, I think we all remember what happened in that game. At least for me personally, top 2. At the time, it was the most embarrassing loss as I've been an LSU fan. That was probably capped this past weekend by A&M, but it ended up being the Omar the Tiger game, right? Everyone was saying it's karma that we got our ass kicked. So a big swing and a miss by Landry. I don't really think anyone was too happy about how that all went down. And just before we get into some other points, as I was reading up on this, the guy they got it from is this super sketchy dude out of Florida, Cal Manson, who has like a shitty traveling circus. They said he got multiple violations. Once for having a tiger get loose and attacked an elephant at the circus. And then this one really took the cake. Another citation issued in 2014, he left a gate to a perimeter fence open untended several times, allowing people to approach and touch the tigers. And the fence which surrounded the tigers was only 4 feet tall. Insane that nobody died. Insane. And like a critic of the whole thing last year said, Cal Manson himself hasn't performed in several years, and the tiger he's bringing, Omar Bradley, which, side point, I think it's kind of cute or whatever that they named the tiger we got on campus. It's Mike. Like, it give it a human name, gives a human element to it. But crazy to have a full name, Omar Bradley. Omar Bradley is only a year and a half old, so we know he has not been exposed to anything like this before. Just clown show of a situation. It's funny, but it's also not funny. So moving on, let's get into President Tate and how Landry was involved in his departure. So I can speak for President Tate from my time at LSU. He came in middle of my junior year. Man, I got nothing bad to say about this guy. I think I never heard anyone say anything bad at him when I was at LSU. I think he was very pro-student and pro-student athlete. For me personally, he gave us the parade grounds back, which was massive. He could do no wrong in my book after that, but he made himself available to all the student organizations from the time he was on campus. He was ride or die for the student athletes. He was always in the locker room. The players always took up to him. The coaches always took up to him. He gave LSU a good look. He did good with the research endowments. He was a good ambassador for the athletic program. He was always around, going on road trips, very supportive of the team. I think the players all liked him. First African-American president at an SEC school. So I think me, like other people, were kind of shocked and sad when it turns out he's randomly going to Rutgers. So I went back and read through some articles he did. I think it was with WBRZ when he left, and they said it appeared LSU was soaring to new heights. Then in May, Tate abruptly announced he was stepping down. The scenario here is very complicated, Tate said. Well, I think it's obvious to everyone. We had a change on our board, and there are now new board members. There's a new administration, and it's fair to say that I was brought in under another administration. So you could pretty much infer what he means by board is the Board of Supervisors, LSU. Well, what could have happened to the board? Governor Landry, of course. So, and another thing I've heard behind the scenes, and we'll get into Woodward here in a second, is that Landry is all about politics. Like, if you don't agree with his politics, good luck. And I think that was a big division with Tate, and I'll get into Woodward here specifically, is both of those two guys has been reported. They're more liberal leaning. That's not what their two positions are about at all. They're about being the best at their job. I don't think President Tate felt that was the situation he needed to be in. I mean, we never once were talking about politics with Tate or Woodward before, but that's the situation they found themselves in. He understood he wasn't an ally of the current regime. I think he kind of got out what Woodward's facing now. I think he probably saw the writing on the wall that they're going to try to force him out. Like, obviously, they're trying to get Woodward out. So as we can move on, maybe the most talked about, well-known AD in the country now because of Governor Landry's press conference, Scott Woodward. Say what you want about Scott Woodward. When he was hired, he was like the prodigal son AD. Everyone was super pumped up in 2019 when he got hired from A&M. And I have mixed opinions on him. He has messed up his last two football hires he's done. And I think it's from his philosophy point of view. I think he goes more for the name than maybe the fit necessarily. But you also have to give him credit for the names he has brought in. And like I said, his persona is that he's this big game hunter. He's the big whale hunter. He's always looking for that top name to bring in and make a splash. Some of the people he's pulled in, people forget. He was at Washington, and he brought in Chris Peterson as their football coach from Boise State. If you ask any UW fan, that's like the most important, biggest hire that they've ever had in their history of their football program. So you have to give him credit there. He got Jimbo, which you would say whatever you want at the time. That was looked at as a huge move and a positive one. Everyone was pumped up at A&M. Everyone was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. You know, Woodward gets a bad rap and like don't understand that he wasn't the one that gave the extension to Jimbo that made his buyout $75 million. Landry's throwing shade at him at the press conference yesterday, talking about that. That wasn't him. I'm not sure what his buyout was when he signed him originally, but he wasn't there to give him the extension that kicked it up to $75 million. He also got Buzz Williams, you know, maybe not the biggest splash, but at the time was a solid pull from Virginia Tech to A&M for basketball. He got Kim Mulkey, and everyone's going to be like, oh, you know, she wanted to come back. Look, it's been reported that LSU tried to get Kim Mulkey multiple times. It actually happened under his watch, so give him credit for that. Same with Jay Johnson. People like to nag at him, say that wasn't necessarily him that made that hire. He wanted to go get Sullivan from Florida. At the end of the day, he had to sign off on Jay Johnson coming here, and we're reaping the benefits of that, thank God. And then obviously Brian Kelly, which was the shock of all shocks at the time. There was literally zero smoke, at least what I remember, of us getting Brian Kelly. It was all Lincoln Riley and other people. All everyone was talking about was LSU stealing Notre Dame's coach. So that's kind of Woodward's MO. Me personally, I don't know necessarily how to feel. And before I finish this up with Landry and some of the other things he said yesterday, if it was me and I was in charge of things, I'd probably let Woodward go just because what I've heard from the Kelly era, how he was meddling. Like, if you're going to hire a guy, you got to let him do what he wants, right? That's what you're doing when you're paying the guy all that money. It's not your job to go out and hire the coaches. And if you feel the need to do that, then you need to make a change as is. It also has come out a little bit over the years that Woodward was very anti-NIL, and that's why we were behind on things. So look, if it was me, you know, I worry that Woodward, if he is doing the coaching search, which he's not, he's about to get axed. I would worry that he would just hunt the big name. I would let him go, but the way that he's being trashed by Landry, and we'll just get into it now, it's just embarrassing. It's unacceptable. You got to do this with class. Like, all the stuff Landry's saying about Woodward, about the Brian Kelly contract, about, you know, Jimmy Sexton and the agents and how that all works in college football. I honestly agree with most of what he says, but it's like he has no idea that these discussions need to be only behind closed doors and that this makes us look bad. I mean, this press conference yesterday, it wasn't even a press conference about LSU. And I think it's funny. It cuts off the sign here, but that sign on his podium says protecting the most vulnerable. I mean, I can't name one thing that Governor Landry has done for the state of Louisiana besides meddle in the LSU program. No, he gets out here, he completely trashes the sitting AD. He trashes the agents that he's going to have to be negotiating with to get a new coach. And just his tone and everything is just completely unacceptable in my book. When a coach, especially someone like Lane Kiffin, big names are going to be looking at the LSU job, they're going to want to see alignment between the athletic department. The governor usually is not even a question, but now you got a thing where the governor is trashing the sitting AD, saying he's not going to be involved in this at all. But then he's saying on one hand, I'm not going to have any part to play in the hiring of the coach. It's all the Board of Supervisors. Well, bro, we know that the Board of Supervisors answer to you. They're not going to do anything that you're not going to want. So it's just like, oh man, I don't know. So then as today has gone on, I mean, he's just doing the full media tour. He's going on McAfee and he's embarrassing us again. Dude, get behind closed doors. No coach is going to come to LSU when the governor is making an ass out of himself in the program. And if I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm looking at this like, I don't want to come here. Like, the governor's a clown. He doesn't shut up. He might trash people in my building. Why would I do that? Does he really run the program? Does the AD? What control am I going to have? And, he's up here also. One of the things he's been saying on McAfee show, he's saying, no, I want to do away with high guaranteed contracts. I want it to be a very performance-based structure. Good luck getting any big name coach to sign up for that. Do you think Florida is going to do that? They're laughing at him right now. They're laughing at us saying, oh, perfect. They're going to tell Lane Kiffin, you want to sign a performance-based contract, or you just want that $15 million guaranteed annually for 10 years? Where do you think he's going to go? So it's just embarrassing. And as I'm making this right now, Landry's doing the rounds again on Moscano's show. And it's just like, dude, this isn't your job. Like, your job is to be the governor. And Rufino's reported that, at the end of the day, Landry wants to get a job up in Washington after his term or 2 terms, whatever is up. If you fuck this up, buddy, you are not getting a second term, and you'll never make Washington. I said it yesterday. One way to piss off the entire state is to mess with LSU football, Democrat or Republicans. I think it's embarrassing. It's honestly got me so distraught about this coaching search. I went from thinking LSU's no doubt the top job, there's no question about it, we're going to get to pick and choose who we want, to now I'm like, oh my God, if this dude doesn't shut the hell up, we're not going to be able to get anybody. So at the end of the day, we need alignment and not infighting. That is such an important thing. Prospective coaches, especially big name ones, are going to be looking at who's the AD, who's the president. By the way, we don't have a president. We're about to not have an AD. And now he's got to worry about the governor. The coach is going to want to know that he's going to get paid, that he's going to get money to build the staff out, money to get the NIL right for a roster, and it's going to be like that year over year over year. And honestly, right now, all we're showing is dysfunction. So, Governor Landry, shut the hell up, dude. You're doing us no favors. We all agree with half of what you're saying, but there's a time and place, and that's not right now, and it's not out in the public on McAfee. You're trying to be like this big public figure. Like, oh, there you go. You are this big public figure now, but you're making an ass out of yourself. But all we can do is cross our fingers, man. If you thought this coaching search was going to be easy, man, be the longest 2 to 3 months of all time. And thank God we got a bye this week. Thank God we got a bye. And thank God Frank Wilson's been rallying the troops, bringing former players in, giving us like little bits and pieces of good news. But at the end of the day, I am losing hope a little bit in this coaching search. So I hope I get proven wrong. But until next time.